was working alone in this building, which is now the museum, but in those days was the screen house and the offices for his cranberry operation. And as he was working in this building late at night one night, the boiler went out. And so he went down into the basement to try to get it stoked again and to get it running, and that boiler actually exploded, leading to Ellis's death.
Oh, damn.
He did not die from the boiler exploding, but rather died a few days later from internal injuries. And so we were there conducting a paranormal investigation, and we went down into this boiler room to try to make connection with Ellis.
Wow.
While we were down there, we're standing around, looking up at the staircase that comes down from the top floor, and we see this figure of a woman, a see-through figure in a white dress. And why do most of these female ghosts wear white dresses? Because back in the old days, they would bury women in their wedding dresses, because it was the nicest thing that they owned. So this woman in white is coming down the stairs, and we can see right through her, but we can still see the features of her face, and we can see the features of her dress, and she's coming right at us with her arms outstretched, and she gets to be about 5 feet away from us, and then completely vanishes. And that turned out to be the spirit of Ellis's widow, Althea, who is seen to this day roaming the grounds looking for her husband. This is a building not too far from here. This is in Gardner, Massachusetts. This is the S.K. Pierce Mansion. And it was built by Sylvester Pierce, who owned a furniture company that was right across the street, a furniture making company. And so he built this grand mansion for his second wife. And as time went on, she got sick and passed away. He ended up passing away. Eventually it goes into the hands of his son. And his son is a degenerate gambler who ends up losing the house in a poker game. Now this place went from being one of the most beautiful gems of the town of Gardner, a town that had a lot of money, to becoming a house of ill repute. I know there's kids in the audience, but, places that people go for certain pleasures. And they let the son live in this house, even though he had lost it in the poker game, because he had nowhere else to go. So his spirit is said to be roaming there to this day. There was also another man named Eno Sari, who people believe he might have died of spontaneous combustion when the chair he was sitting in and himself spontaneously caught fire.
Oh, shit.
And then there's all the women who were associated with the house whose spirits still are haunted as well. And when Edward and Lillian Gonzalez bought this house in the early 2000s, they became so afraid of the activity that was going on in there that they had to get a second house for them to live in. They couldn't live in the dream house that they had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on because the activity was so bad. They had to get another place an hour away and go back and forth between this house and theirs. And so they opened it up for paranormal investigation. And we go there to conduct an investigation, and one of the things that they had a rule against was no Ouija boards. Somehow I convinced them to let me bring one in anyway. And even though my psychic medium best friend Stephanie told me, do not use the Ouija board, I did anyway. And this spirit came through and said that her name was Laura, and attached itself to one of my friends that was there with me that night. And it took Stephanie days to be able to get this spirit to release its attachment from her. Years later, we were going back for the first time ever, and I said to Stephanie, what was the name of that spirit that attached itself last time? And she said, I'm not telling you, because I don't want you to try to communicate with anything. Oh, come on, it's fine, it'll be all right. And she said, no, I'm not telling you. Well, hours later, I ended up finding out the name from another friend that I had texted on the sly. And when I said that name out loud, the door to the room we were in slammed shut, and every device we had for investigation went off, full blast. And one of those devices just kept saying the name over and over again, Laura, Laura, Laura. So on the way home, I was recounting all of this to Stephanie, and she said, I told you not to mess with that thing. And when I got to my house, she was driving, and when I got to my house, she said, before you go in, I want you to say a little protection prayer. And I said, well, you know me, I don't believe in any of that stuff. I don't believe in protection. And she said, just humor me and do it. So I said, fine. Nothing can follow me into the house. And then I got out of the car, I walked through my front door, dead silent, middle of the night. All of a sudden, one of the devices in my backpack just starts going off full blast. And I don't want this thing going off in the middle of the night, so loud, so I'm ripping open my bag, trying to pull it out, and I go to turn it off, and then I look and I realize not only was it off, but there was no battery in it either. So I think that was the spirit of Laura telling me, hey, you can say all the prayers you want, but I can still get you if I want to. This is the Houghton Mansion in North Adams, Massachusetts. This was built by A.C. Houghton. I think the ghosts are messing with my slides. It was built by A.C. Houghton, who was the first mayor of the town of North Adams. And he was also one of the first people in town to own a motor car, a Pierce Arrow. And one Sunday afternoon, he went for a drive. It was him, his daughter, some friends, and his butler/driver, John Witters. And they were going out around one of the mountain roads, and John Witters went to negotiate the turn, and he didn't get it exactly right, and the wheels came off the mountain road, and the car tumbled down the side. It ended up killing 3 of the people that were in the car, and severely injured Mr. Witters and A.C. Houghton. Actually, A.C. died a few days later. They say it could have been from a broken heart, from the death of his daughter, but in actuality, as my friend Jeff Belanger likes to point out, it was probably from internal bleeding. But now their spirits are said to haunt the Houghton Mansion. And also haunting the mansion is that spirit of John Witters as well, because days after the accident, he still blamed himself for what had happened. And he went out to go feed the horses in the barn and shot himself with a gun.
Yep.
So with all of these spirits already haunting this building, what's the next logical thing for it to become? It becomes a Masonic lodge. So the Freemasons bought it from the family and they turned it into their lodge, and they started having all of their ceremonies there. But in addition to the ceremonies they would have in the main room, they also had a secret area in the back where they would conduct other secret rituals that not everybody could know about. And it was in that area that we were investigating one night when we started to see shadow people. A procession of them walking down the hallway and walking right in front of our faces. That was weird enough, but later on at the end of the night, we're down at the end of the hallway, and there's one shadow person way down the other end. And we're trying to coax him to come on down and hang out with us. And slowly but surely, he makes his way down to where we are, and he gets about 2 or 3 feet away from where I am. And I said, can you shake my hand? And I put my hand out, and this shadow person wrapped his hand around mine, and I just went limp fish like this, and he picked my hand up and was shaking my hand up and down. Now, before this, I was very much like those paranormal investigators you see on TV. I would be walking around being like, come at me, ghost, where are you? Show yourself! Because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. But when I shook hands with this thing, and I felt that this was, or might still be, another person, I just started crying. It changed my life, and it changed the way that I was as an investigator. And now I believe the silly slogan on all the t-shirts that say, ghosts were people too. I told you before that I mix up my estates. This is the Emery estate. This is in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and it was built to be a replica of Mount Vernon, George Washington's home.
Oh, wow.
And this is a place that's only really been opened up for paranormal investigation now for a couple of years. Prior to that, it was a private home, and then when the last member of the Emery family passed away, the relatives sold, the last member that lived there passed away, the relatives sold the house to the town of Weymouth. The land was already a park that they had donated to the town, so it just made sense for the town to own the house as well. And it sat there, rotting away for years, they didn't know what to do with it. So finally they called my friend Christy, who was running all the ghost events at the Oliver House in Middleborough, and said, can you try to do something similar here, and we can use the money to restore it. And so right from the start, when she started investigating there, things were happening. And she brought us in to come in and check it out, and we were having experiences too. There's a closet where they say that the spirit will kind of touch people, will put a hand on their shoulder, and so I'm standing in this closet, and I could feel the hand on my shoulder. I said, that's kind of nice. Can you give me a massage? And I felt two hands on my shoulders kind of rubbing my back, and I said, oh, that's really good. Oh, can you crack my back? And I felt the hands wrap around me and start pulling me backward. So I knew that there was something in this house, but later on we were investigating, and at the end of the night, we closed up all the rooms and got ready. Everybody else had gone, and it was just myself and one of the caretakers, Rick, walking around the upstairs because we could hear footsteps walking on the level above us. So we'd go up there and there was nobody there. So we'd go down back to the next level and we'd hear footsteps on the ground floor. And then we just kept going back and forth chasing these footsteps for the better part of an hour. And then finally we're getting ready to leave. We figure the footsteps aren't going to be something we can track down, so we just say goodnight and we get ready to walk out the door, and a voice says, close the door. And Rick is like, oh, that's right. I left the second floor porch open. So we go upstairs and he closes the sun porch on the second floor and he locks that door. And then a voice says out loud, thank you. Oh, okay, I guess that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Tim Weisberg, everybody. Give one more great round of applause for Bill Wallace and Tim Weisberg. All right, we thank you guys. We appreciate you so much. And now, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Man, I hope we're not too spooked for the movie. Are you all ready for the Haunted Mansion? I don't think you guys were loud enough. I need to hear you one more time. Are you ready for the Haunted Mansion? All right, let's roll it.